New Year's Day, 2023. Across the world, people celebrate with champagne, fireworks, and resolutions. But in the quiet town of Cohasset, Massachusetts, a very different story was unfolding. A story of secrets, betrayal, and a disappearance that would capture international attention. Her name was Anna Walshe. She was 39 years old, a mother of three, and by all appearances, a woman who had achieved the American dream. But in the early hours of January 1st, she vanished without a trace. What followed was a chilling unraveling of lies, evidence, and suspicion. A story that revealed just how quickly the world you know can collapse. Anna Jabisic was born in Belgrade, Serbia. She grew up during turbulent years in a country marked by conflict and change. Those who knew her as a child described her as ambitious, determined, and full of life. She was someone who looked beyond her surroundings, who dreamed of something bigger. When Anna moved to the United States, she carried those dreams with her. She worked tirelessly to build a new life. In Washington, D.C., she built a career in real estate, quickly rising to the ranks thanks to her charisma and sharp business sense. She became an executive managing luxury properties and earned the admiration of colleagues who saw her as both brilliant and unstoppable. Her life in America seemed to embody everything she had once hoped for: success, opportunity, and the promise of a bright future. Anna married Brian Walshe, a man from Massachusetts who, at first, seemed to complement her ambition. Together, they built a family with 3 young boys, moving into a quiet home in Cohasset. On the surface, they looked like the picture of suburban success: a driven executive wife, a husband managing family life, and 3 children who filled the home with energy. But Brian Walshe was not without his own shadows. Years before Anna disappeared, Brian had been caught in an art fraud scheme, accused of selling counterfeit Andy Warhol paintings. His financial and legal troubles put strain on the marriage. Friends of Anna later revealed that she had expressed concerns, sometimes even fears, about her husband. To them, it seemed Anna was balancing more than just a high-powered career. She was balancing the delicate act of maintaining stability in a marriage full of cracks. The night before her disappearance, Anna and Brian celebrated New Year's Eve with friends. To those present, the evening appeared normal. There were smiles, champagne, and the promise of a fresh year. But Anna's friends would later recall that she seemed anxious, distracted, as though something weighed on her mind. In the early hours of January 1st, according to Brian, Anna received a sudden call from work. She allegedly had to return to Washington, D.C. for an emergency. He claimed she called a rideshare, left home before dawn, and flew back to the capital. But as investigators would soon discover, this story was nothing more than a fabrication. Anna's colleagues in Washington expected her on January 1st, but she never showed up. When she failed to appear the next day, alarm bells rang. This was not like Anna. She was disciplined, professional, and reliable. For her to vanish without explanation was unthinkable. By January 4th, after several days without contact, Anna's employer officially reported her missing. The case landed on the desk of Cohasset police, who immediately began piecing together her last known movements. When detectives first spoke to Brian Walshe, his account was simple. Anna had left for D.C. on January 1st. He stayed home with the kids. He had been asleep most of the morning. He had no idea what happened after she left. But investigators quickly discovered the truth. There was no Uber record, no plane ticket, no boarding pass. Anna had never called for a ride. And she had never arrived at the airport. The first lie was exposed. And once the thread was pulled, everything else began to unravel. Detectives obtained a search warrant for Brian's electronic devices. What they found was chilling. In the hours before and after Anna's disappearance, Brian had conducted a series of internet searches that painted a horrifying picture of premeditation. The searches included how to dispose of a 115-pound woman's body, how to dismember a body, how long before a body starts to smell, how long before someone inherits if a person goes missing. The sheer specificity of the searches left little doubt. Investigators believed they were looking at the digital blueprint of a crime. Surveillance cameras revealed even more. On January 2nd, the day after Anna was last seen, Brian was caught on video purchasing hundreds of dollars worth of cleaning supplies. He bought mops, tarps, buckets, bleach, and protective gear. The images showed him wheeling a cart full of items that, in context, looked less like household necessities and more like the tools of a cover-up. Detectives began tracking Brian's movements. They discovered he had visited multiple dumpsters around the area. When investigators searched those sites, they uncovered black trash bags filled with items that would become central to the case: a bloody knife, Anna's clothing, towels, and other items stained with blood. DNA testing confirmed the blood was Anna's. News of Anna's disappearance spread quickly. Friends and colleagues described her as radiant and full of life. Vigils were held, candles were lit, and prayers were said for her safe return. But as evidence mounted, hope turned into grief. The narrative was no longer about a missing person. It was about a murder. Her 3 children, too young to understand the full scope of what had happened, were left without a mother and with a father accused of her death. The tragedy was devastating. A shattering of the family unit they once knew. On January 8th, Brian Walshe was arrested, initially on charges of misleading investigators. As prosecutors laid out their case, the charges escalated. He was soon charged with the murder of his wife. In court, prosecutors described the evidence in meticulous detail: the internet searches, the surveillance footage, the bloody items pulled from trash bags, the purchases of cleaning supplies. Each piece of evidence added weight to the case against him. Anna's disappearance left questions that may never be answered. What happened in those final hours of New Year's Day? Did Anna confront Brian? Did she try to leave the marriage? Friends later suggested she had plans to separate, to start fresh. Was that the trigger that led to her disappearance? The trial of Brian Walshe became a point of national attention, not just because of the crime, but because of what it represented. The danger that can exist behind closed doors, the betrayal that can grow within a marriage, and the tragedy of a woman's silence before her time. Anna's life was one of ambition and resilience. From her childhood in Serbia to her rise in American real estate, she embodied the pursuit of dreams. She was a mother whose love for her children was undeniable, a professional who commanded respect, and a woman who carried both strength and vulnerability. Her disappearance is a chilling reminder that behind the walls of seemingly ordinary homes, darkness can thrive, that even in moments of celebration, tragedy can strike. Anna's story remains unresolved in many hearts, not because the evidence is unclear, but because the loss is too great. A life full of promise was ended in silence, leaving behind 3 children whose futures will forever be marked by the absence of their mother. And so, the disappearance of Anna Walshe is more than just a case. It is a lesson about trust, betrayal, and the fragility of safety. It is a call to remember that behind every headline is a life, a story that deserved more. Anna's voice has been silenced, but in the search for justice, her story continues to be told.